Well, hello everybody and happy new year. I've got the wonderful Sabrina Tree of Life Inner Guidance. I'll get it out in a minute. With me today. Y'all have seen her over on the Slumber Party where she's joined us a few times and has popped in as she's cruising around Scottsdale and which I used to live in Scottsdale, so it's kind of cool when you go into the old town part, you walking around. Uh, so they've got some nice areas there to walk. And this is a good time of year to do it because you're not like having a heat stroke at midnight walking around outside. Um, because in the
All true.
summertime, trust me, at midnight it's still 110 degrees. And you're like, I thought it was supposed to get cooler at night in the desert.
All
Not in
true.
Phoenix.
And that's why I'm not here in the summer.
That would be smart. Yeah, it's like it's time to go. We've got our snowbirds that show up when I lived there. That's what we call them. The Easterners that would go to the desert during the summer or during the winter to get away from the freezing ass cold in the east, and then in the summertime they'd all go back home. So there was a
You know,
constant flux.
I think that there's a lot less snowbirds this year because a lot of the Canadians are not coming to the US
Yeah,
for the winter. Can you imagine?
yeah, we've lost a lot of tourist business because of the tariff nonsense. So um,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
we're paying for it. A lot of the smaller areas that really relied on tourism heavily, they're hurting because they completely took away their business. I mean, they're not getting compensated for any of that. You've got distilleries in Kentucky and Tennessee that are practically shutting down because nobody's buying their whiskey, because it comes from here and
Hey,
they don't want it.
we
Canadian was
we
one
are
of our,
making America great again. We're making America great.
for
Not
who
at
I don't
all.
know, but
For somebody.
not for us. But I know in Kentucky, a couple of their big time distilleries are really worried because they've lost massive business because Canada used to buy huge quantities of Kentucky bourbon and whiskey and stuff that they sold in Canada. And now you have people that they won't buy it. They won't touch the stuff. So and then they quit buying it from us. So who knows? I mean, it's what the okay, I don't know. Something popped up. Okay. Um anyway, so hi everybody, welcome. Thank you for coming back if you were here earlier. I had Linda G on with me earlier, which was a lot of fun. And I think she and Deborah ought to be just about done now on their live, so we won't be opposite her. That will help. I know I was on with her and I had like 3,000 people in the room. I was like, holy shit.
I know.
I don't
It's
know what to do with
amazing.
that many people. It's like, ah. And she was just laughing, saying, yeah, you'll get used to it. I'm like, I don't know if I'll get used to that number, seeing it on my, on my viewer count. It was just blew my mind. Um,
How do you even handle the chat when there's that many people? You just probably don't.
you don't. I just
You
every
just
now
let
and
it
again,
go.
if you glance at it and something will pop out at you and you'll snag it, and then uh, I mean, I put it on slow mo where like somebody texts something and then they have to wait 60 seconds before they can post something again. That kind of helps slow down the chat a little bit. But when you start getting into numbers like what some of them have, it's like, yeah, that does that doesn't work. That's why with a couple of the readers that like have over 100,000 subscribers, I do backstage work for them. I'm in the show, but I'm backstage. Nobody sees me, and I just handle the
Right, like
chat going
Arthur, you
through.
do that for Arthur.
Yeah, like with Arthur's channel, I just and I do it for Arthur for his solo shows and for his and Mel's Aloha Tuesday shows. So I'll be doing that tonight with them, where I handle the chat, and it's I'm able to, as stuff is coming up, I'm able to mark it and then push it out to them when they're ready for the next question. And even then, sometimes it's so overwhelming. I mean, it's gotten where with Arthur's stuff on Sunday afternoon, there's two of us backstage, not just one. There's me and there's Walter, which is another friend of Arthur's, that we're backstage working in tandem together to get the questions out to Arthur one after the other. And even then, there are some times when we're overwhelmed with how many questions are thrown out. It just
I
depends.
hope someday
Um,
I have that good fortune,
you and me
but we'll
both.
see.
I know Linda was laughing. She was saying that she hired her daughter to take care of her email and stuff because she gets so many emails that she can't keep up. I said, yeah, I said, that I can understand. I said, because I've already had a full week off. I'm going into my second week off for Christmas vacation, and I'm still trying to catch up on emails that have been so backed up. And because I still have a lot of people that email me to my old email address, which is just my personal email, not the channel email anymore. And so I'm still balancing that back and forth. And it's like I'm still so behind. it's there were so many things I
Well,
wanted to get done these two
it's
weeks, and
good to be
I'm just not gotten most of it done. So
it's good to be
um,
so popular.
I guess so. I mean, I haven't done that much really. I did a couple of regular shows, and Christmas night I did a surprise pop up. I was just bored. I thought, let's see who's around, and and I'll see what I can if anybody shows up or not. So that was a lot of fun. But today is really the first day that I've really scheduled several readings in a row. I do something yesterday. Um, I did a live last night, and then I did an interview with Evelyn from Life After Life, and so we did that, and that's all I did. But that was like late last night before I did that, and
She,
today's the first day that
Evelyn has some really good questions.
yes, she
She's a
does.
really, really good interviewer. You know,
I've done. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I had no idea what to expect when she came on. And, well, you know how she does it. She said, kind of rephrase the question and act like you're just talking to the camera. So, and she does a
Yeah, yeah,
great job editing.
yes, she does. She's really good at the editing part. Uh, my problem sometimes is I don't understand what she's asking me. She just doesn't have the English right for it, and so it kind of takes a minute. I have to go, huh? I don't
Yeah.
understand. Um, that happened a couple of times last night, and she's done 3 interviews with me now, and she's never asked the same question twice. Every
Wow.
interview has gone off in a different direction than a previous one, so that's kind of nice. I feel like I'm not just regurgitating the same answers to her, each time. So that's nice to
Right.
have
Right.
different questions to answer. Of course, it also can make it a little intimidating because you don't know what she's going to ask.
But
You know
I
what she
had
asked the last time, but it's not this
no
time.
idea.
So, and
And one of my cats came on the video, and I'm just talking away, and Gigi comes up. If it's anywhere near 8 or 9 o'clock at night, the cats will come out because they want to go to bed, and they're looking for
yeah,
me. Like, where are you? So she hasn't put it up yet, but It was
Some,
interesting because the way she does it, it's, all the titles are so kind of sensational that,
yeah,
makes people want to click. So I thought that was interesting.
yeah. It's a way to get attention. I mean, people see it and they go, "Ooh, oh, I gotta watch that," because
Right.
it sounds so dramatic. So, uh, I know there have been some readers that have done interviews with her that didn't like the way that the titles were kind of clickbaity, but I figure whatever you need to do, that's your channel, do it your way. I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm just, humbled by the fact that she's invited me to come on and do interviews with her.
Right.
So I enjoy doing that. I don't have any problem with talking about me or talking about what I think
And
about
you know
something.
what? And I'm going to show you in your chart right where that comes from. And I
I
saw
am
that, and
a
that,
talky. I like to talk. So
yeah, yeah, so
yeah,
do
I don't
I.
have a problem with
But
that.
you win. So I can't see the chat
Exactly.
at all, so I have no idea if anybody's here or not.
I can fix that. Um
Oh, okay,
there.
there we go. Well, hi everybody.
Uh okay, make it can you read that? I can do it bigger. There we
Oh,
go.
that's okay. Um, that is all right.
Yeah, and then that way whatever comes up in the chat will come up on the screen and just scroll up with it. So that's kind of cool.
Okay. Hi, Dibs. Now I see it. Hi,
Yeah,
Richline.
we got Jackie's here,
Oh,
Dibs is here,
Jackie's here.
Richleen, uh, Gina is here, uh,
Hi, Jelly. Hi, Lori. Hi, everybody. Hello, hello,
Child,
hello. Do you
Laurie
see
from
my shirt?
Texas. I think we're all going to need some Prozac after this Christmas is over. Um, oh, Aunt B is here, and we got us a good little group in here. Cool. So
Good.
Sabrina is going to teach us about astrology, the basics, so that when somebody says, "Oh, well, look, here's your chart," you know what the hell they're talking about. Or you're like me, who's had it done several times by several different people who are really good at doing it. And I'm still like, okay, I don't understand what you're showing me, but okay, I'm going to roll with it. I wish I did understand it better. I probably, if I had the time to sit down and really study it and learn the terminology for it, it would make a lot more sense. But I get thrown off by the terminology because it's like I don't know what that means.
Well,
It's just
I did a little talk on Bobby's channel, Wild Raven Tarot, and I tell
uh
everybody that Bobby is my married gay Leo boyfriend because I adore Bobby.
I know
So
he's
I
so
always
sweet.
I
He'll be
say
on the
Bobby's my
slumber
married
party
gay
this
boyfriend.
Saturday, so he'll be on the slumber party with me this weekend. So
Oh, good,
that'll be
good.
fun. Yeah,
All right,
Bobby's a
so
sweetie pie. I met
so
him through
whenever
a
you
remote.
want me to start yakking, I can start yakking.
Do you need me to put a chart up?
Not yet, but I'll
Okay,
let you know. I'll say, go
okay.
ahead and throw that chart
Yeah,
up.
I don't even know what to ask you. So
I can just talk. I can talk as much as you, Sherry.
I know you can. I love Dib says my astrology limits are funny pages, horoscopes, and fortune cookies. Thank you. There we go.
Well,
That's me.
Dibs, there you go.
Um,
That's about right. Well, so I guess what I want to first say is that most of the astrology columns or monthly little astrology things, they are focusing mainly on your sun sign. So what I mean by your sun sign is Sherry's a Gemini, I'm a Sagittarius.
that
That's
was my
your
mother.
sun sign. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have the same, don't I have the same birthday as your mother, December 17th?
December 17th. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same birthday. So your mother sent me.
There
Anyway,
you go.
and they're very general. The readings are super general when they're just for your sun sign. So you can kind of take those with a grain of salt. And then other readers will come on, astrologers will say, this is for your sun sign and your rising sign. Now,
That's
when I
Aries.
read, yeah, so Shari is Aries rising, I'm Taurus rising. Okay. So your rising sign is going to set up your entire astrological chart. So when you listen to these sun sign things or read them, you also want to read for your rising sign, because I actually find the rising sign is more accurate unless you're having a professional reading done. And I'll explain why. So, Shari, like myself, she has only one planet in Gemini, as I recall. I only have one planet in Sagittarius. So, all the planets land in different areas of your chart, and your rising sign sets that up. So, how do you know what your rising sign is? You need your date of birth, month, day, year. You need your time of birth and where you were born, because the place you were born and the time you were born sets up the latitude and longitude of the planets.
Right.
So, this is why someone who has the exact same birthday as you might be very, very different than you, and it's based on your rising sign. And obviously, it's based on your upbringing and environmental factors and all those things.
Right.
But for the most part, it's going to show how different you are. So, Shari, just real quick, can you pop your chart up, the one of you? And I want to show everyone something.
Here we
So
go.
this is Shari's astrological chart. So as you look over on the far left side, you're going to see a symbol, which is Shari's rising sign, which is going to be Aries. You see that symbol right there? So the cool thing about Shari's chart right now is it's kind of set up in what we would call the standard astrological wheel, where you see the symbol for Aries on the far left side, which is your ascendant. And then underneath, you'll see that there's the symbol for Taurus. Then you're going to see the symbol for Gemini. Then you're going to see the symbol for Cancer and Leo, and the whole way around the chart. So the start of the regular astrological wheel is 0 degrees of Aries. Shari looks like she's about 9 degrees of
I got
Aries.
one and
So
that one's
what does that mean? What do those degree points
4.
mean?
Hmm.
So go ahead and take that chart down for the moment, Shari, if you will. I'm going to keep you busy.
Okay.
So if you look at this astrological wheel here, now you see on that left hand side, I'm going to put my finger right on there. That's where your rising sign is. This is your normal astrological wheel if we did not have a birth time. Then the beginning of the astrology wheel starts with 0 degrees of Aries. And then it goes the whole way around. And this looks like a pie. So each one of those slices of pie are different, the different houses, and those different houses represent different areas of your life, and what planets you have in those houses, they are going to highlight that particular area of your life. So for Sherry's chart, can you pop that back up, please?
Okay.
So for Sherry's chart, as you look over there on that left-hand side, she's Aries rising. Looks like it's about 9 degrees of Aries. Each astrological sign has between 0 and 29 degrees, which is basically each day. So on the start of Aries, which is the end of March, roughly around the 22nd, 23rd, that would be 0 of Aries. So at the time Sherry was born, Aries was coming up over the horizon around that 9 degree point. So if you were in Aries, 9 degrees of Aries, your birthday would be roughly April 1st. So, and when I gave this talk on Bobby's channel, I had forgotten how much there is to learn with astrology because I started this 40 years ago. So I'm like, how can I explain this that makes sense to somebody that doesn't understand anything about astrology?
That's
So,
me.
okay, so Aries was coming up over the horizon in the sky at the moment that Sherry was born. So, what you do is you plug in all the planets in those houses at that moment Sherry was born. So, as you notice, the first house, which is your appearance, kind of how you walk into the room, the sign coming up over the horizon. Okay, hold on a minute. Seffi, come here. One of my cats is screaming blue bloody murder. I don't know what's going
I
on.
hear.
Anyway, she's a Leo, so she wants to be heard, this cat. So, your ascendant sets up the chart as to where all the planets land. Now, for Sherry, she has Venus in that first house. She's Aries rising. She's probably going to be an extrovert. What do you think, Sherry? Are you an extrovert?
Sometimes,
I'd
sometimes
say
I'm not.
most, well, I'd probably say, based on what I know, you're an extrovert. And where you have Venus in Aries in the first house, your appearance is going to be very Venusian. So it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful in an Aries warrior goddess kind of way. Venus in the first means you are probably going to be very pleasant right from the get go because it's in the first house. So you could say Sherry kind of has Venus rising with Venus in that first house. Now, she doesn't have anything in the second house. That doesn't mean anything, but let's go to the third house. So, Gemini rules the third house of communication. So Sherry's son, she's a Gemini. She's got Gemini in the third house. So she's going to be very Gemini, and her son's going to be in Gemini, is going to be super happy in that house of communication, short trips, community. Gemini likes to hear all of the details. They like to hear all the stories. They like to know everything that's going on. They're
Oh,
ruled
yeah.
by Mercury, so they also like to talk a lot. So when Sherry's saying, I can talk, I'm like, I get that. Even though, as you go to the next planet there, her Mercury, which is communication, even though it's in Cancer, it's still in that third house of Gemini. So Sherry is very Gemini. She's going to come in the room, very Venusian, very likable right out of the get go. I'm sure you all can agree with me. And she's got a lot of that Gemini energy because she is a Gemini. Her sun is in the third house of Gemini. Her Mercury, even though it's in Cancer, so she's going to have a very empathetic way of communicating, it's still on that third house of Gemini. So that's why Shari's going to come across very Gemini. She's going to come across as this Venusian warrior goddess. And look at that picture of her in the top corner. What do you think?
Yep.
I'd say that's all very
That's
true.
my swamp witch picture.
Now, what I what I want to do, Shari, switch to the other chart for me that I sent you. Okay. So now, why I had Shari pull this up. This is the exact date, year, everything that Shari was born. Only this is for 1:52 p.m. instead of 1:52 a.m. So now, do you all see how this chart is not the same? It's very different. So, with
Yeah.
a rising sign at a different time, so I just had her flip, I flipped the chart from AM to PM. So, you notice now that the rising sign is Libra. The house has changed to the ninth house. So, this person, even this fictitious person, even though she was born the exact, or he was born the exact same day as Shari, flipping the time from AM to PM changed the rising sign and also moved all the planets into different houses. So,
Mm-hmm.
this is why, in order for you to get an accurate astrological chart, you need your date, time, place of birth. You absolutely need to have the time. So you can do a chart, which is, can you kill that chart for me? Um, you can do a chart, which you could do as whole sign houses, and you would put 0 Aries on the ascendant, or whatever your sun sign is, you would put 0 of that sun sign on the ascendant, and it would be 0 Gemini. Now, you can glean a lot of information from that, but it wouldn't be as accurate as having your birth time. Now, how do you get your birth time? If it's not on your birth certificate, you can contact the hospital where you were born for birth records. They're going to want information from you. The other place is when a child is born, I believe they have to register the birth of the child in the city that child was born in
Mm-hmm.
order to also get a birth certificate. So you would have to ask, and you have to be very specific that you want the time of birth, or they may not
Right.
give it to you. Okay. So, and there's another way that takes a lot of time. If there's no way you can get your birth time, they do something that they rectify your chart. They take a they ask you specific questions, what happened on different dates and times, and they might be able to come up with something that's pretty close. But truly, your time of birth will let you know a lot of things. Okay,
Well,
so
that's like
let's
when
take.
I've heard astrologers talk about um, like politicians that they're looking at or celebrities or whatever. And one of their biggest things is that they have all the information, but they don't have the time of birth. So then they'll do a general reading on their chart, like at midnight
Yeah, or
when it
it's
comes a
usually
brand
12.
new day. Yeah.
It's usually 12 noon. They'll do a 12 noon chart. They'll put the birth time as noon. But why that it they can see how the planets in the sky presently, those are called transits. Okay, so they can see how the present planets in the sky are affecting that person's birth planets, but they won't know what department of life is getting affected. And that's where the houses of the chart come up. Shari, may I have your chart again, please? Okay. So now with Shari's chart, Aries rising, we already talked about her being the warrior goddess. The second house, she has Taurus on the second house, which is your earning potential, your values. So for Shari, I would say that it's very important for her to have a steady job because
Yep.
financial security and stability is very important to Shari. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Now, so, and we already talked about the third house rules communication, short trips, local trips, as opposed to when we get to the ninth house. I'll talk about that. But I'm going to go to
And
the next.
in
Am
fact,
I going too?
when it comes to like my work, my last three official jobs, the one I'm in now, I just made uh 14 years. The one I had previous was a little over 10 years, and the one I had before that was 14 years. So it wasn't like I was hopping around very much.
Right, right.
It's like I
And
get in the job and I stay put. So
right. Well, and that shows up. And I should have pulled my own chart up because there's a contrast there between you and me, which is super interesting. But so financial stability and her earning potential is important to Shari. So she gets the job and she stays there, provided there isn't anything super horrible. But, and I bet everybody just adores Shari at her job. But I'm going to bring something up about her job and then she can tell me if this is true or not. So we are moving on to the fourth house. And what you're going to see there at the bottom of the fourth house, that's called the IC. You have the MC, the IC. So you're seeing there the symbol for Cancer. So I would say that you had a very nurturing home life, but I'm also going to say, was your father present?
I don't know. I don't know who he was.
Okay. And I'm going to show you in her chart about her father, but I bet your mother was very nurturing and just loved you very much and took
Yes.
good care of you. Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, here's the fun. So, the next department, the house, is the fifth house. Now, the fifth house is ruled by Leo. Leo's ruled by the sun, Leo the lion. Leo is the drama king or queen. Leo loves attention. Leo is creativity, loyalty, children. So when you see that symbol for Leo there, Shari has a couple planets in Leo. Now, I am super familiar with Mars in Leo. Shari has Mars in Leo. And one of the first things that Shari said when she came on was, I love to talk about myself.
Yeah.
That is Mars in Leo. Now, I have had a lot of people in my life with Mars and Leo. So when I saw that, I laughed out loud. My mother had Mars in Leo. Um, Mars in Leo wants to be on the throne. They love adoration, recognition. They like to be worshiped, and there's nothing wrong with that. Leos are like that in general. And if Leos don't get that energy, they can turn into real sourpusses. So and so when Sherry said that, I'm like, yeah, I know all about that. So and she also has another planet there, Uranus. So with Mars conjunct Leo, I would say, Sherry, your creativity can be a little sudden and erratic and changeable. So you might go down one creative path all of a sudden and be like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then you're like, all right, I'm done with that. And you might do it for a while and then be done with it as quick as you started it.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's me.
And
I'll start out with something that's of interest, and before you know it, it's like, okay, I'm bored with that. What's next?
Yeah, yeah, there you go. But yeah, Mars and Leo, and Leo will take care of you like nobody else if you've gained their loyalty. Okay. So, and the next house there, and that is the sixth house of your physical health, your everyday activities, your job as an employee. So Sherry has Pluto in there, and I would say, I've heard bits and pieces, but I would say that over the years, you've had a number of very intense health issues with Pluto in the sixth that
Oh
has
yeah.
transformed you and your everyday life. It has absolutely changed your everyday life. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Pluto
Yeah, my
is
back gets when
Pluto.
I got my back hurt.
So Pluto is now how I would look up when these injuries or serious health issues happen with Sherry is I would look at Pluto and what sign transiting Pluto was in the sky or other planets, how they hit Sherry's Pluto. And that would tell me, I would say, okay, I'm just making this up. I would say, okay, so be careful about your health next year because there's potential for something to happen in July. Okay.
Okay.
So that's how an astrologer would say, and I don't predict personally, I just don't like that word. I say potential for. So if I knew Sherry before her accident or whatever happened, I might have said, upcoming, the planets in the sky right now are not getting along favorably with some of your planets. You need to pay attention and be careful at that time. So that is how knowing your astrological chart, knowing what's going on with the planets in the sky, can help serve you better. So something may happen, nothing may happen, or something major may happen. And forearmed and forewarned is forearmed with these situations. So, and she also has that other little symbol, which is the North Node in her chart that's conjunct Pluto. So the North Node is a node of the moon where you are striving towards. So in Sherry's case, I would say something that is a little bit uncomfortable for Sherry, but when she is this, she feels better. Sherry needs to master the art of discernment. North Node in Virgo is she needs to be a little bit more discerning, perhaps, with who she hangs out with or who she works for, or at work, perhaps she needs to be extremely particular in her day to day work ethic. Does that ring a bell, Sherry?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So now here's another fun thing. Sherry and I both kind of have this aspect a little bit different, but the next house, as you see there, that's the symbol of the scales, and that's called your descendant, and that's Libra. So there's the big symbol there. So this is the house of contracts, one on one. It's the house of marriage or not. And Sherry has a planet in there. Sherry has Neptune in the seventh house. So she may not see a marriage partner very clearly. Okay. So or she may be attracted to a marriage partner that might be artistic, a musician, creative. Um, and the downsides of Neptune are an alcoholic, a drug addict, um, an addictive type personality. So I don't know anything about now. I'm saying a lot of this to Shari, and I don't know anything these answers. So I don't know if you've been. I know you have been married. I believe. Have you been married more than once?
I was married for 23 years before he died, and he was a Gemini too.
Yes.
And he
How?
he was an alcoholic. He was a recovering alcoholic. So
There you go.
yeah, that
So
that hit the nail on the head there.
so I have Neptune exactly on this descendant. So where you see that Libra sign, mine is Scorpio. So where it's exactly on my descendant, where Sherry's is right smack deep in that seventh house of marriage and partnerships. For me, I have to be super careful because I would be attracted to that rock and roll star, drug addict, alcoholic, musician, artsy fartsy. Now, I'm not saying Neptune is always bad. All right. What I'm saying is there's a high side of an astrological sign and there's a low side, a shadow side. So there's the daylight sign and the shadow side. So the shadow side of Neptune can be addictions. The sunny side of Neptune can be that they're super creative, they're kind. They Neptune rules Pisces. So the best side of Pisces is they're very compassionate, they're very empathetic. But when you've got that so predominant in one of those houses, you got to be careful who you pick out. And in fact, I've done such a bad job at picking out partners. I now just have cats. And my cats are Pisces, and that works for me. So it's kind of funny. So now, as you go to the next house, the eighth house, that's the house of Pluto. That is sex, drugs, transformation, death. Um, and that's, she has Scorpio on there. Scorpio loves the eighth house. Scorpio is rules the eighth house of Pluto. Now, Shari doesn't have anything in that house, but what would happen is if you would match somebody else's chart with Sherry's, they may have planets in that eighth house. Okay. So just because there's nothing in that eighth house doesn't mean that it doesn't count.
Somebody's
Planets are going to,
asking how many houses are there?
there are 12 houses. So as you look at this little tiny chart here, you'll see there's 12 pieces of pie there. And there's 12 houses because there's 12 astrological signs. So I'm just going through Sherry's houses quickly. And then so the next house is the ninth house of Sagittarius. That rules philosophy, higher education, overseas travel, religion, law. The seventh house of Libra also rules law. Sagittarius is the other sign that rules law. And I always said if I ever went back to college and switched careers, I would be a lawyer and I would be a prosecutor and I would be damn good at it. But instead, I'm a Pilates instructor and a YouTuber. Oh, well.
And those are
So,
important positions too.
absolutely. Absolutely. So now, as you go to the very top of the chart, that's called your midheaven. So at that very top part of the chart, you've got the symbol for Capricorn. Now, Capricorn and the midheaven go hand in hand. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Shari has a very strong Saturn. She has Saturn in Capricorn in the 10th house. So her Saturn is super strong. And where I said earlier in her, and we were talking about work, if Shari doesn't do something right at work or shortcuts her job in any way, my guess is she's gonna get caught. And they're gonna come to her and say, why didn't you X, Y, and Z? And she's probably gonna say, oh shit, I overlooked that. I didn't mean to. I'm super sorry. Let me go back and try that again. Is that true, Shari?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When I
Saturn,
miss something, I beat myself up over it because it's usually something that normally you never have to look at because it always right where it needs to be. And so I'll scan over something to move on to something else that's a problem. And sure enough, the first time I do it, that's when something shows up funky, you
yep.
know?
And also, Shari has Saturn. Now, this is how these are called aspects. And this, for the longest time, probably the first 2 years of me messing with astrology back in the 90s, back in the 80s, actually, I could not understand these aspects. But right now, an important aspect for Shari, she's got Saturn in the 10th house of work and public eye. Her Saturn in Capricorn is not exactly best friends with that Venus and Aries in the first house. Now, if you look at that angle, if you drew a line straight through that Venus and Aries to the center of that middle wheel, coming down from the Saturn in the 10th house, you would see that that would make a 90-degree angle. Yes? Can you all see that? Okay. So that would make a 90-degree angle, which in astrology is called a square. And if you knew anything about geometry, I was amazing at geometry. Algebra sucked. But that 90-degree angle between those planets means they don't exactly see eye to eye and they may butt heads. So
That
Aries
makes
and
sense.
Capricorn are, Aries is super different from Capricorn. Aries is a fire sign, Aries is a maverick, Aries is impulsive, a warrior. They want to get on it. They have all these fantastic ideas. They may or may not implement them, but they're great at starting things. They're Aries the ram, they just charge forward. Now,
Yeah,
Capricorn
I'm good at starting
has,
stuff and then not finishing it.
there you go. There you go. So Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is father time. Saturn is chronos. Saturn is boundaries, responsibility. Saturn is the long haul. So now, when you've got Saturn in the 10th squaring that Venus in Aries, some people may think that Shari has the potential for coming across cold. Shari's not cold. I can tell you that right away. She's not. But she may appear that way because Saturn in her public eye of that 10th house is squaring that Venus in the first house. So she walks in the room, they see the Venus warrior goddess, which is very cordial, but because Saturn doesn't necessarily get along with that Venus in Aries, that's going to put a little bit of a wet blanket on that public persona. So, Shari, have you been accused of coming across as a little cold?
Yeah, oh yeah, lots of times.
Yeah, and
And a
but
lot
that's
of
not.
times it's a lot of times it's usually because I go somewhere or I enter into a room where I don't know anybody and I tend to be the wall hugger. I stand back and people watch. I don't. interact because I don't know anybody. And it's not until I get comfortable with the group of people I'm around that my mouth starts running and then I'm all over the place. But um, yeah, until I get to know who's in the room and what's kind of the vibe on everybody, I tend to be in the back hugging the wall, standing next to the fern or the potted plant, whatever it is. And I
But
just
you're
kind of
talking.
people.
I bet you're talking to that potted plant, though, aren't you? You're talking to that
Oh,
potted plant.
absolutely. I'm having a full on conversation with the fern. There's no doubt about that. I can talk to inanimate objects till the cows come home and have no issue with it.
And here
And
we
it's
are.
funny because it's kind of a hereditary thing because my mother did it. She was a Sagittarius. My grandmother did it. I don't remember her sign. Her birthday was in August. Um,
Leo,
like,
I'm sure.
yeah, she was like
I
August.
bet.
She was like August. I want to say it's like the around the 15th, somewhere like middle of the month.
Leo. Leo.
And yeah, so and we all talk to ourselves. My grandmother would hold an entire conversation, both sides, all by herself. She would be talking and would answer herself and then go back and go back and go back. And I mean, growing up, I thought it was normal, Wait till I got older and people say, that's kind of crazy. And I'm like, no, she wasn't crazy at all. She just would have an entire conversation with herself. My mother
Well,
talked to
I
herself.
think
I talk to myself all the time. I'll be doing things around the house and I'm having a full on conversation. And I'm the only one in the room, just I don't know.
yeah, interesting. So the other thing, and a good example of this is Saturn in the 10th house, because now with Saturn in the public eye like that, the 10th house is your career. The 10th house can also be if you're the CEO, the executive, the president, self-employment. So Saturn in the 10th can also, if you don't mind your P's and Q's and be in the up and up, can also mean a fall from grace. Richard Nixon had Saturn in the 10th. So there is a
Okay.
fall from grace extraordinaire. Now, Shari, I'm not telling you that because you're going to have a fall from grace. I'm
Oh,
saying that
not
I I'm saying that because I also have Saturn in the 10th. I haven't fallen from grace and I hope I don't. I try to be a decent person, and but so that Saturn in the 10th is a super interesting placement. And also Saturn in the 10th can mean absence of a father figure. That's
yep.
how I thought I knew that you did, there was no father around. I had no father. Well, I had a sperm donor. Obviously, I arrived here. Shari
Well,
arrived here.
exactly. There was a sperm donor somewhere, but I don't know who. I don't know his name. Don't know anything about him. And whenever I would ask when I was younger, my mother would just say, I don't remember. And that was her answer. And she would get very upset. And so I quit asking after a while. I figured, you know what? If it upsets her that much, I don't need to know. And so I walked away. So it makes me think that it wasn't something it
Pleasant.
did it didn't occur under pleasant circumstances. Or maybe even agreeable circumstances, if you get my drift. So,
Right.
and so she refused to talk about it. And after a while, I finally, duh, it's painful for her. So I just quit asking. It's like, I don't need to know. It's, so yeah, I have no clue. Don't know a name, nothing about him, nothing,
Yeah.
and don't want to know. I mean,
Yeah. It's
so when
over.
my husband and I were first together, and he was like, well, we could like look into it and find out who it is. And I thought about it and I thought, you know what? I really don't want to know. It's not worth it to disrupt our calm, in our family to
Well,
find that out.
it was very interesting because I knew who my father was and I met him. Now, I'm telling you all this about me because I also have Saturn in the 10th house. And I met my father for the first time when I was 16. And I was a cheerleader in high school. And he came to, well, that was the second time. I apologize. First time, he just came to the house. Now, my grandmother raised me, so my mother was kind of absent. That's a whole nother kettle of fish. But my mother is Donald Trump in a female suit. She's gone now. But anyway, so I know all about narcissists, unfortunately. But what was weird, Shari, is, my grandmother said, your father wants to meet you. And she said, I think that he just wants to meet you because if I tell him no, then he no longer has to pay child support. I said, sure, I'll meet him. What? I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
So I remember the day distinctly, him and his wife, and he stayed married to her, wife number two, and I had a half brother, but I think the wife is still around. But they're my father and my half brother are both gone. But so I remember rounding the corner, coming into the living room, and he was sitting there with his wife, and it was super weird because what do you say after 16 years of not having a father? And there he is sitting in front of you, like, hey, Dad, how's it hanging? I mean, what do you say? You say,
Exactly.
where the
Exactly.
hell have you been for the last 16 years, you loser? What do you say? And it was
No,
super
I
weird.
get it because as soon as it's like I said, as soon as it dawned on me that trying to get more information on it was just going to cause pain for my mom, I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do this because, she already had it bad enough. She was a single mom raising two kids on her own in 60s, which was unheard
Yeah,
of just about back then, So
right.
uh, I, I know that, and I found this out much later in life, but growing up as a kid and a preteen, it used to always bother me when we would go to like family stuff, extended family all around and everything. And I always felt like, well, what's wrong with me? Because I was always kind of treated like the redheaded stepchild. Um, and no offense to redheads, but just, I mean, it was like I wasn't good enough
I
for
get
a lot.
this.
Now, there were a handful of, great aunts and stuff that they went to an extreme to compensate for that, and to make me feel loved and wanted. But overall, there a good portion of my family was like, they didn't. I wasn't good enough for them. They didn't want anything to do with me really. They just kind of tolerated me. And when you're a kid, that can really affect your self esteem. I had no self esteem going into my teen years. I mean, I was starving for affection in any way, shape, or form I could find it, any kind of attention that I could find because I didn't have that as a kid. Um, and although my mother did her best, to raise my brother and me as equitably as she could, but she was a single woman trying to raise kids on $2 an hour, I mean, that kind of thing. Um,
I
and it
I
was
am,
until,
what's listening to you, Sherry, this is crazy. So now what I want to tell you guys is that I first started this YouTube channel back in August, and I was just kind of getting it going. And when I reached out to some people, Sherry said, yeah, I'll have you on the channel. Now, what is crazy, aside from Sherry being super kind, and it was so nice of her, she didn't know me from a hole in the wall. Her and I have almost the exact same story.
yeah,
She is talking, and everything she's saying is almost exactly what happened to me. Sherry's a
yeah,
few years older than me, but it's the same story. Now, I want to tell you guys how I see this story in her chart. So, often Saturn in the chart is considered the father figure, and the moon is considered the mother figure. So I'm going to come back to that. But Shari, to make you feel better, when I graduated from high school, which I hated high school, I wanted out of there. I was bored to death. And I was a troublemaker for the most. I mean, I was a good kid, but I was just bored. And so on graduation day, one of the most embarrassing things that I had to endure was I was my class president. So I had to give a speech, or I was student council president. That's what I was, student council president. So I had to go up and give a speech to my graduation class and all the families, all the parents, this public speaking thing I've been doing, I guess, my whole life. But when I went up there and they introduced me, they said, and next is Sabrina, blah, 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 daughter of Ms. Martin. Now, I didn't have the same last name as my mother. I didn't have the same last name as my grandmother. I had my father's last name, who never wanted anything to do with me. So imagine back then, so I graduated from high school a few decades ago, how embarrassing it was when every other kid that got introduced had the same damn last name, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Todd Yatsko, or daughter of, Bill and Marianne Britsky. I just had my mother's name. It didn't match my last name, and it was pretty awful. And so I get all that, Shari. Believe me, I have a very headstrong personality, but I have so much in common with Shari. This is fascinating, and I hope you all are finding this so fascinating. The similarities that her and I have, and that many of my friends and I have. It's kind of crazy. All right, so now
The fact that you
let's
have the
talk.
same birthday as my mother also rang bells for me. It was like, how often do you meet somebody that's the same exact birthday as your mom?
I know it's pretty crazy. So we're gonna go now. So we did the 10th house. We're at the 11th house now, and what you're gonna see in that 11th house is you're gonna see the symbol for Aquarius. Now Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is kind of the crazy sign, unexpected, very techy, out there, Aquarians are very into the collective, and they have lots of friends. Sometimes, if
And
you're
my son's an
involved with,
Aquarius.
isn't that fascinating? So, Shari has the moon and Jupiter in there, moon conjunct Jupiter. Now, what conjunct means? Same sign, and often almost the same degree, but it doesn't have to be the same degree. And she has Jupiter at 7 degrees of Aquarius. Now remember, there's 0 to 29 degrees in each sign. So she has 7 degrees of Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system. It's a big gas giant. It magnifies everything. I call Jupiter Santa Claus, the bringer of gifts and good fortune and happiness and joy. She has Jupiter conjunct the moon very closely, 8 degrees of Aquarius. Now, moon conjunct Jupiter can mean that you also like the good life and you like food. So that
Hmm.
could mean that, you have a hard time with the weight. I have no idea what you look like aside from the neck up, Shari. Um, it
I
can
kind of
also,
spread
this,
out as you go.
so,
I've lost 40 pounds in the past year, so I'm doing good with
Well,
getting
congratulations.
it back on.
I hope that was anytime, because I'm a health and fitness professional. Anytime someone says weight loss, I say, is that a good thing? Were you trying to do that? I hope it was not a sickness.
Well,
So,
we're working on figuring that part out because I wasn't trying to lose. I had been the same up and down 10-pound radius for years, and I just couldn't seem to get below a certain level. And then when I saw my regular doctor for my regular checkup last spring, and the first thing he said was, "You've lost 38 pounds. What did you do?" And I was like, "I did what?" I had no
excuse me.
I don't have a scale. I was like, huh? And that's when we discovered the kidney problems. So um, I'm taking special medication now. I'm having to watch what I eat because they don't want me to go on dialysis. I don't want to go on dialysis either. It's like if I can take a pill and avoid the machine, hand it over. I'll take a pill. So far it seems to be working good. So we're just keeping an eye on it. But they think that that could have been what when my levels got so out of whack that that's what started the weight loss. And but I had lost it between doctor visits, so he didn't see me losing it until I went back in, and I had dropped a considerable amount, and so I had to dig the scale out of the closet and put it back up in the bathroom with fresh batteries so I could check my weight regularly, and which I hate to do, but I'm actually fitting into clothes I haven't been able to wear in years because I'm not as fat as I used to be, so that's a good thing. Uh, the bad thing is a lot of my work clothes and stuff are getting too big. I can't keep my pants up. I
Time to
literally,
go shopping.
yeah, it's like
Shopping.
it's time to go get some new work pants. So, yeah,
All right. So let's talk a little bit about Sherry's mother. So Sherry's mother with Moon, mother conjunct Jupiter, joy, happy, but in the sign of Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is probably the most detached sign in the zodiac, meaning that they can just, you know, detach, and they can come across as distant. And if you were involved with an Aquarius, sometimes you have trouble distinguishing, are you friends or are you lovers, or what's going on here? And I would say, Sherry, that your mother really loved you. She provided for you in every possible way that she could with the means she had, but she
yeah,
also was a little bit emotionally distant. And I think that that was probably protection for her.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. We
Excuse
grew
me.
up knowing that if we needed her, all we had to do was say something and she was there. But she gave my brother and I both enough autonomy that we could decide for ourselves what direction we wanted to go in our lives. I mean, when I became a teenager and started going out with friends and started dating, she didn't set a curfew time for me. She just was like, what's reasonable, be home by a reasonable time. And if you're not going to be home by that time, then call me so that I don't worry. And so I was usually the one rounding up all my friends who did have curfew times. Come on, let's go. We got to get everybody home so I can get home at a decent hour. Um, but
Sherry, I
because
think I'm your sister. I think I'm your sister from another mister. And
yeah,
you know
you
where
could have
that
been.
comes from, you all. Where this comes from, that Saturn in the 10th, Sherry was an adult long before she needed to be or should have
Oh
been.
God, yes. My brother's 6 years younger than me, so I started becoming an adult when he was born, changing
Yeah.
diapers and feeding and playing with him and beating the shit out of him when he misbehaved and until he got bigger than me. When he got bigger than me, I quit doing that. It was like, okay, he can beat me back now. But
Yeah, we are
it's
so
weird
similar.
because now we all live together. It's like me, my son, my brother, and his son. We all live together in the same house. And
Nice.
never more four people that are more opposite from one another in a lot of respects than we four, but somehow we make it work, you know. And my mom was kind of the center of that flower, so to speak. And when she got ill,
Right.
we all came home and moved back in to take care of mom. And then when mom passed, we were like, well, we've been together this long, we might as well just stick together. It's
Nobody's been unalived
we
so
haven't
far.
killed each
So
other yet, right? We haven't
right.
unalived each other yet, so um,
So,
might as well stay together. And that's basically how we did it. And
all right.
there
So
are days
Shari,
when it's like it's a good thing I don't own any firearms. There would be
yeah,
mass funerals going on, but it takes a lot for me to get that. I don't get angry, really. I'll get pissed off about stuff, but really angry, I because I can't control it. If
yeah.
I hit that level of anger, it's like a switch flips in my brain and I have no control over that anger. And so I've always worked very hard at not getting angry. I will
And
go
go
ab-
ahead.
above board in trying to keep everybody keep the peace. Let's work it out. Everybody's good. And that in conflict makes me physically ill. I don't, when people are fighting and arguing and there's conflict go, it literally makes me physically ill. It's like I don't want to be around that. And so I'm always playing the mediator, trying to get everybody to calm down. Let's talk it out. We can work it out. Everybody
That's
give and take.
very, very. I'm going to show everybody in your chart where that is. So, first of all, Gemini is an air sign. They want to talk about it. Not everybody wants to talk about it, but where Shari is saying she tries to keep the peace because she has an explosive temper. Now, do you see where Aquarius and Leo is? So, what I'm showing you now is the oppositions. So
Okay.
Shari in her chart, where you see the Aquarius is in that 11th house of groups, um, and clubs, organizations, Aquarius. She has Moon conjunct Jupiter, so she's got big emotions, even though she might kind of keep those at bay. Aquarius is not a super emotional sign. They're an air sign. They're logical. But as you look down at that bottom corner across from that, she has Mars conjunct Uranus and Leo, and they are in opposition. So when you have that oppositional energy, you know how you've heard opposites attract, but
Yeah.
can they stay together or are they going to explode? So those are also in signs that are considered fixed. So that's why Shari kind of keeps that lid on that boiling pot as
Yeah.
long as she can, because she knows what's going to happen when that lid comes off, and that oppositional force is going to lock horns like this and explode. So because Uranus and Mars together, that is a super explosive aspect. Jupiter and the moon together can be super big emotion. So now you have explosive, huge, erratic emotions that want to take action. Not a good idea. So, not a good
No.
plan. And,
I tell you
you know,
from firsthand experience, it's not a good idea to let that out.
yeah, yeah. But, you have to talk it out for one, because Gemini needs to talk it out. And number two, if you don't do something with that explosive emotion and feelings that are so big, they're going to eat your insides out.
You self
So
implode.
you
Yeah.
self implode. Yeah, your body will absorb that, and that's how you become sick. But the other interesting thing that Shari brought up that her and I again have in common, is she said, she didn't have a father. Her mother did the best she could, but the aunts and the uncles and other adults were around. So I also have a degree in counseling, and there's Erickson's psychosocial model, and he talks a lot about invulnerable children. So another thing I have in common with Shari is we both had to be grown-ups before our time. We both were kind of supervising the neighborhood kids, and the neighborhood parents were fine as long as they knew I was there, or
Yeah,
probably that Shari was there. But the
yeah,
other thing that I had in my life, I didn't have aunts or uncles, but my friends' parents kind of they looked after me, and they gave me a lot of the love and nurturing that I didn't get from my own family, because my grandmother was raising me. We had no money. I was better off than when my mother was raised, but my mother wasn't there, my father wasn't there, my grandmother was doing the best she could, like Shari's mom. But I had other adults in my life that looked out for me, like Shari, and we turned out okay because of that. Because often when you don't get that love, and
amazingly.
amazingly, here we are, we live to tell about it, and we're not in jail. And so there's a whole social model that talks about this, that often when you have absentee parents, that a child can go astray, they can become an alcoholic, drug addict, lunatic, whatever. But if these children have these other adults in their life, that they can be okay. And there's enough of these kind of kids around, like Shari and I, that they've done many studies on this, and that's what they found the common denominator was. And yeah, we did all right. So I just
I'm
want to
still
say
here,
we're all still here. But
and
I
I'm
want to
I'm
tell
I'm
you
not
guys,
behind bars. So thank
there's
God
still
we didn't have social
opportunity.
media when I was a teenager. I'd still be locked up. But um,
But
you
so
know,
I just
like I said in the beginning, I was more afraid of my mother than I was of the police. It's like the worst the police can do is put me in a cell and shut the door. Then she can't get to me. It's like, but
there is
don't do
that.
something wrong because if my mama comes after me, she's gonna kill me. And it's like I knew it. Yeah, we don't. We just didn't. That and the fact that she was a single mom. I think I always had the presence of mind of she's got enough on her plate. She doesn't need me being an idiot to add to it. There was and I think my brother pretty much felt the same way because neither one of us were troublemakers. Neither one of us were, getting in trouble with school or with the law or at least we didn't get caught. Let's put it that way.
That is key. You didn't get caught. So
Didn't get caught. Yes, you
so
just had to be kind of.
I just want to say to you guys that I knew like just a teeny tiny fraction about Shari from what she would mention on, the slumber party. And all the other things I gleaned were from her astrological chart. Now, I don't want any of you to get discouraged about astrology, but what I will say is it's so different from tarot, because with tarot, there's 78 cards. They each have a meaning. Once you learn the meaning of the cards, and most of us have some sort of semblance of intuition, you're going to be able to lay the cards out and get the picture. Astrology is not that easy. You have to know the signs, the houses, the aspects, meaning how the planets get along with each other. You have to know, when you look at a chart, what a planet in that house might mean. And you do have to study it. And, fortunately for me, I started this a really long time ago. I had no intention, I never in a million years thought I would end up on a YouTube channel. Gigi, come here. I would have never
Oh,
guessed
like
this.
I thought I would?
Like none of us did,
No.
and here we are. So,
Yeah.
so just know that if it's a little confusing or more than a little confusing, it's a lot. And I didn't even realize it, until I went on to my boyfriend Bobby's channel, Wild Raven Tarot. I didn't realize until I started talking about it. I'm like, wow, because if any of you have done something for a really long time, whether it's typing, accounting, a medical assistant, a dentist, a writer, a librarian. And if you've done that for a number of years, decades, you kind of forget how you started and that it took a really long time to figure all that out and that you had to learn. And so giving that little chat for Bobby was truly an eye opener for me because I forgot how much there was, to astrology. And
Yeah.
then I'm going to ask Shari just two other questions just because now I'm nosy. So if you all
Ask
look,
away.
okay, because she loves to talk about herself. So if you look at that, the top of the chart where you see the symbology for Capricorn and where I talked about Shari having Saturn in Capricorn in the 10th house. Now, there is something that occurs every 29 years, and then again at 58 years, so that's 29 times 2, called a Saturn return. So, Shari, I have to ask you, what did you get a new job when you turned about 28, 29, 30? Did you change jobs?
Uh, didn't technically change jobs,
Did you
but
get a promotion?
yeah, I changed what I did in my job. I went from just being like a receptionist to being a quality assurance person in within the same company. So it was taking my office skills that I already had, but up to the next level because now I was having to go behind everybody else to make sure everything was done correctly. Because I worked in the medical field, so we had to go through inspections with OSHA and the FDA and all that kind of stuff, and they can be quite particular,
I
especially
bet.
with dealing with blood products. So uh, yeah, that was about the time that I got promoted up to a quality assurance.
Now,
And
I
then
want
my
you all,
job was checking everybody else's job.
I'm going to expound on that a little bit. So, Shari had her first Saturn return, and now what that means. Now, you all know that the planets revolve around the sun. Now, I know Shari thinks that the planets revolve around her, but they revolve around the sun. And each planet, depending on where it is, so you have the sun and you have Mercury, and then I think it goes to Earth, and then the moon, and then Venus and Mars. So the further out the planets are, the longer it takes to go around the sun. So there's a major thing that happens every 29 years, and it's called your Saturn return. So Shari had a Saturn return around 29 years old. And what Saturn also, now Saturn can be that wet blanket, Saturn can slow things down, Saturn can be a hard stop, but Saturn will give you your just rewards if you have earned it. So Shari got a big promotion at 29, which was absolutely perfect to go with her North Node in Virgo. Now, do you all remember where Virgo is? Virgo is that sixth house of your everyday life as an employee. There's your symbol. Shari has the North Node in Virgo, which I said earlier on, she needs to be more discerning and move towards more discernment of not only her own health, but in this promotion she got in the health industry, working for inspections for OSHA, if I got that correct, or something like that. She had to be super discerning at this job, and they knew she could do that. That's why she got that promotion. Now, Shari, what happened to you? And this would have been fairly recently. What happened to you when you turned 58, 59? Did you get another job or a promotion or something? What happened?
58, 59. That would have been what, 5, 6. Well, that was right around when COVID hit. And
Is that when you
that,
started your YouTube channel?
that's shortly before, because my mom died in June of 2019. And then COVID hit December 2019, January 2020. Lockdown hit like a month later, and suddenly we
March,
were all
yep.
stuck at home. And that's when I went on YouTube and just started channel surfing to see. It was like I'd had the channel for, we all have had a channel since we first signed into YouTube, but I didn't do anything with it. I didn't know I could do anything with it. And I stumbled into this community by seeing a video by a reader who was doing not just political tarot, but progressive political tarot. And I was blown away because the only thing I'd ever seen up to that point on TV or online or anything that had to do with tarot and that kind of stuff, it was all like way over on the conservative side of things. And I kept thinking, they don't make people that do this kind of stuff that that aren't conservative. And when I found this progressive tarot reader, I was hooked from the first video, and that led me to this one, which led me to that one, which led me, and before I knew it, I was hooked into a good number of the current psychics that were on air at the time, and there weren't that many back then. It was all kind of just starting. And
Well, because people had nothing else to do. I mean, it's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I started several of the thank you, Jimmy. Several of the people that I got to know in the chat when I started talking with them, uh, they started in with, you're a psychic, right? You're supposed to be reading cards, right? And I was like, what are you talking about? No, I'm not. And everybody's like, yeah, you are, and you need to be doing. You're supposed to be reading cards, and I was arguing with them, and one lady who's got more knowledge in her little toe than I'll ever have in my whole life. Um, she started in and she said, "Send me your address." And so I gave her my address. She sent me a deck of cards, and then I was like, "Now what?" She was like, "Start playing with them. Watch other readers when they throw cards. You throw cards. Did you get the same cards? Did you get different cards? Why do you think that is?" And that's basically how I learned with her channel name is Cartomancy Mystique. Is Angela just walking me through those beginning steps? And when I first got the cards, the first time I sat down with them, it was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I mean, that's how it affected me. Just just picking up and holding that deck of cards. It was like, oh, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do, and which kind of blew me away.
Jerry's telling my story again, only mine
And then they
happened
were like,
with
"Well, you
the.
need to get your channel going and go on." And then I was petrified. And the first 6 months that I was on, um, I only was on air if somebody invited me. I was terrified to do it myself for fear that I would screw it up. Which the first time I tried to do a live stream, I did screw it up. And but that's okay. I learned from that mistake and I moved on. It's been a learning curve ever since. picking the brains of
Boy, is
those
it ever.
who started doing it before I came onto the scene and asking them questions. Well, how do you do this? Well, how do you do that? Taking classes when other readers would offer classes, um, and just mainly just watching people, And then I finally started my own channel, and it just kind of went from there. I mean, it was kind of wild. I had like 3 subscribers, and I was in the chat one night of a girl I watched. She was doing a live stream and had a guest on with her, and we had a hurricane coming. And she saw me in the chat, and so she asked me, "Oh my God, is the hurricane heading towards y'all, or is it heading somewhere else?" And I responded in chat, "No, it's heading our way. We're keeping an eye on it." I said, in fact, I said, I think I'm going to like go outside every day and do like a hurricane vlog and just a minute every day. Here's the weather today. Here's the weather today. It's 3 days away from us. Here's the weather today. That kind of thing. And the guest that she had on was like, "You have a channel?" I said, "Well, yeah, but I haven't really done anything with it." And he's like, "Well, what's the name of your channel?" And so I told him, and he's like, right at that moment, he says, "Okay, everybody stop, go to her channel and subscribe right now, and then come back." And I went from like 3 subscribers to 47 subscribers in like 10 minutes. And I was just blown away at the amount of people that did that. And it just kind of grew from there. It still boggles my mind that I not only have subscribers, but I have members. It's it's sometimes it's just kind of like, wow, really?
Well, the to drive the point home here, Shari started this channel as her second Saturn return. So your first Saturn return, you get rewarded or not. Now, I know a person that, and Saturn, you got to be careful with Saturn because Saturn is karma. So this person, when they turned 29, they got a venereal disease. So Saturn will either Saturn will make sure you get your just desserts, as I call it. So Shari got a promotion at her first Saturn return, and then her second Saturn return, which is mastery. If you've done good for the first Saturn return, she started her YouTube channel, which is a success. So this is where it's super interesting because you can track all this astrologically. And I feel like Shari is just about telling my story again. And so it's really interesting to be on here with someone that kind of mirrors your upbringing and different things. And so I hope that those of you in the chat that this has sparked more interest for you in astrology and how astrology is potential, and that you know you can use it as a predictive tool. But like I said, I don't do predictions. I say potential because we all have
Yeah.
free will. There can be big energy around something, but it can be stopped. Like I do believe that there has been so much prayer around the weather and the hurricanes for the southeastern part of the United States to the point, but they didn't really get much hurricanes. You didn't get a hurricane season, did
We
you,
didn't get
Shari?
any this past year. No, that was weird. And I have
Now,
this really sick feeling in the pit of my stomach that we're going to pay for it this coming year, which is usually how it works. We might go a couple of seasons where we don't really get anything, and then whammo, we get hit and hit hard. So um, this makes two hurricane seasons in a row that we either got very, very, very minor storms or no storms at all that went up
so
into our section of the Gulf, and because I'm up in the Gulf Coast, and uh, it makes me nervous because my
Yeah.
inner sense is telling me, get ready, it's coming, and I'm like, yeah, thanks, I don't want to know that, but
But
then
this
again, I
is
do want to do that so I can prepare for it.
there you go. So this is why when you're watching readers or they'll say things to you like there's big energy around something, but that can be changed based
Yeah,
on free will, what other energies can be put out in the universe. I have a client who I think it was 5 years ago now, but she had endometrial cancer, stage 4, and we thought she was all done. So, through the power of prayer and different things like that, that outcome was changed, and she is still cancer free 5 years later. So, what I'm saying is, I think that when things are predicted and they don't happen, um, people have free will. The energies can change based on how other people behave. And for us out here, knowing astrology, that can help you with different situations. Now, just one right off the top of my head, and this happened many, many years ago, but at the time I did know astrology, and I had to go in and talk to a boss. And I was really pissed at what he did. He, I was running a fitness program, and one of the instructors went in and whined for a raise, and he gave it to her. And I was pissed because I didn't really like this instructor, and she was madly in love with herself anyway. The ego business of fitness. So I thought, well, how am I going to go in there and tell him about this? What am I going to say? So I pulled up his astrology chart. Now, he was a Pisces, so I knew he was going to be sensitive, but more importantly, he had Mars in Libra. Now, Libra is the sign, the scales,
hmm,
balance, partnership, being fair. So when you have Mars in Libra, that kind of puts a little damper on that Mars energy of slamming into the room and warrior. So I knew that if I used the correct lingo with this guy, I was going to get what I wanted. So I went in and sat down and I played on that Pisces sensitivity. And I said, well, I understand that this instructor was given a raise, and now all the other instructors know. And I think that really hurt their feelings. And I just don't think it's fair that you're giving just this one instructor a raise when all the other instructors have been here for the same amount of time. So, how are we going to fix this? Now, if I would have charged in the room and said, why the hell did she get a raise and nobody else did? That wouldn't have worked. But
diplomacy.
I knew how to deal with him. I went in and hit those important things in his chart, and every instructor got a raise. So, knowing astrology, I mean, you can throw cards, the cards don't lie. I did a talk earlier today with the cards. I just haven't had time to upload it because I'm fighting with thumbnails now. There's a lot behind these YouTube channels that you guys can't even imagine. But you know, you can throw the cards or whatever before you go into something important like this. But if you have some astrological background knowledge, that will help serve you in just your everyday dealings. So I hope this little chat has inspired you because, as I said, I'm looking at Sherry's astrological chart and telling her life story just about without knowing her life story, but her chart tells it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like you were talking about the Saturn return every 28 years. And I'm
2020 ish.
yeah, and so I was sitting there thinking, I was calculating in my head, um, my timing would have started at 61. So by 91, that was 20,
30
60,
years. So
71,
around
80, and that was 30
1990.
years.
Yeah.
And then, so 1990, 1991, um, I was just working my job and doing my thing and blah, blah, blah. And then in 99 is when I was seriously injured and had my back broke and my neck broke and everything. And so that completely upended my life. I mean, I went from working 60, 70 hours a week to being flat on my back and I couldn't do anything. And so that took a toll. Um, and it took a while to kind of accept, okay, now I have limitations. There's only so much I can do. And so I had stopped working at that time when I got hurt. I got hurt on the job. And and it was 3 years after I got hurt that my husband died. And so it was like all of that kind of happened boom, boom, boom together. And then a year later, I said, I'm out of here. And I packed up and I went to Arizona. Never been out west, didn't know a soul, didn't have a job, just headed west just because I'd never seen the mountains and I'd never seen the desert. I decided to go west. And I wound up staying for 10 years in a really good job. And I came home when my mom got really bad with the dementia. And my brother was like, you have to come home. I can't deal with this by myself. And so I left my job and I came back home and wound up getting hired on where I work at the same university that I graduated from. I wound up getting hired on there in 2012. So that was another, I was what, 50, 51? Yeah, 51.
That's a Chiron return. Age 50 is a Chiron return.
Yeah,
So what I for what Sherry's talking about, there's another astrological thing that can be done, and it's called your solar return. So every year on your birthday, your sun returns to the exact degree and minute that you were born. So, Sherry, I forget what your degree point is in Gemini, but, and you cast a chart. Now, this is where you would cast a chart to wherever you were living because it's going to be different than what's called your natal
correct.
chart, your birth chart. So, in that solar return, you can look at all those, the 12 different houses, departments, pieces of pie. You can look at that and it's kind of like you can see what that year is going to bring.
Right,
So for Sherry, it would be super interesting to go back, look at her solar return for 1999 with that accident. It would show up in the chart. A move will show up in the chart. I mean, me buying a place in Arizona, I never in a million years thought any of this was, I just can't even, still can't believe it. But it showed up in my chart, my solar return. So astrology is just so amazing and just never ending because the planets are always moving and changing. And in 2026, I'm sure you've all heard many astrologers talk about how the outer planets, those are the slower moving planets that are on
yep,
the outside. Like Pluto takes almost 250 years to go around the sun. Pluto has changed from Capricorn, thank goddess, into Aquarius. Pluto ripped me a new asshole for about 10 or 12 years. I'm like, I'm exhausted. Change signs already. And then, so Saturn is changing signs, Uranus is changing signs, Neptune is changing signs. So when you have those outer planets that are out there that take so long to go through a sign change, this will affect the entire collective because they're
yep.
generational. So this is
Yeah,
why
because I don't know what the date was, but I know that I don't know if it's already passed or if it's still coming up. But there was a certain time, and I've heard a lot of other astrologers talk about it, where it was like all these planets were all lined up in the same location. And so everybody was like, holy shit, something big's getting ready to happen because they're just lined up one after the other. I don't
Well,
remember
you see,
the past year or this coming year that it's going to happen,
so
but
to your point, there was a big lineup that brought COVID on. There were a
yeah.
lot of planets in Capricorn, and that brought that on. So I know that in April sometime there's like 7 planets in Aries, and that's going to affect you, Shari, because you're Aries rising. So what does
Hmm.
that mean? That could change Shari's appearance, identity, how she comes across. You're also, that could make her way more assertive at that time because all those planets are going to
Maybe I can
land in her
afford a
first
facelift
house.
by then.
By the way, Shari, do you get headaches? Do you get
Oh, I
headaches?
suffer from migraines.
So Aries, so that's there's so much. I keep backtracking because I keep forgetting shit. So Aries rules the head. So when I first saw Sherry's chart, first thing I thought to myself is, I wonder if she gets headaches. And she
I
just
get
said she gets
migraines.
migraine.
Yeah.
I am Taurus rising. Taurus rules the throat. Every difficulty I get goes right to my throat. That's why my voice is so wacky. And yeah,
Yeah.
so that lineup in Aries is going to be super interesting. And also on February 20th, Saturn is going to be in zero Aries and Neptune are going to be in zero. They're both going to be in zero. I think that's the date. Zero Aries. They're moving out of Pisces. So those of you at the end of Pisces, end of Sag, end of Gemini, end of Virgo that I'm in, not in this fog of confusion. I called it 1 foot on the brake, one on the gas, but I don't even know where the hell we were going. I forgot. That's
Yeah.
so Sag, Gemini, Virgo, Pisces have probably been feeling that way because Saturn is boundaries, Neptune is dissolving boundaries. So you're kind of going forward, but then no, you're not. But where are we going anyway? And it's a lot of confusion. So changing into Aries is going to be a relief for a lot of us because I can deal with Saturn and Aries. But anyway, so yeah, this has been great fun, Shari. I hope you've
It has
enjoyed
been
me
fun.
talking about
And I
you.
actually learned some stuff. I mean, every time, and there's a handful of astrologers that come on, and they usually will pull up my chart and they'll walk me through things, and I'll learn something. And then I get frustrated because I can't understand all of it. And then somebody else will come on and they'll go through some stuff, and I'll learn something different. And so it's like over the years, I've slowly been piecing together my knowledge of it. It's like I still don't feel very confident dealing with astrology stuff, but and it's like I do an astrology tarot spread every month for the new sign that's getting ready to roll in. It is very generic, y'all. I usually go online, I find a spread geared for that sign, and then anywhere from say 4 to 8 cards, that's required to draw for it. And it's a very generic kind of reading, and I don't make it for every change, although I try to. Um, and but it's interesting because I kind of learn something, even when I do something like that. That's very generic and no specifics really to it at all. Except that this is the sign, this is what it the sign is supposed to represent, and that kind of thing. But that's about the extent of my knowledge when it comes to that kind of stuff.
And
And
like I first said, those when you read your sun sign or listen to little videos, it is very generic. And where in Sherry's case and in my case, I have my sun is in Sag. That's it. My planets are elsewhere. Sherry has her sun in Gemini, but all the rest of her planets are in other signs. So a generic Gemini or a generic Sagittarius, column or little mini video isn't going to tell us that much. So I always say, look at your rising sign because that is going to show where the planets land, and it's going to give you a little bit more information. So, in Sherry's case, my battery's dying. We've been on here so long. So in Sherry's
Oh
case,
yeah.
she should look up the forecast for Aries as well as Gemini. And I read Taurus. I don't even read Sagittarius. I read the forecast for Taurus because that resonates with me. Before, I've got this cat here. This is Gigi, who she wants attention as much as you, Sherry.
She's gorgeous.
She knows, but thank you.
She's a pretty baby.
Yeah. So, anyway, this has been super fun. And thank you for
Absolutely.
having
We'll have
me.
to do another one so that we can like go forward. Maybe there'll be a couple of people who are willing to let you do their chart, and they can come on and you can kind of walk through how that's different than what they saw with
Right,
mine. You know,
right, right. Yeah,
um,
we can do that. The other thing, too, is when I do readings, I would use your astrology chart first. I would
mhm,
look at that because when I look at someone's astrology chart, I'm going to see where they're coming from. I'm going to know kind of what things they've been through. And I'm also going to be able to see what there's potential for.
right.
Then I would answer your questions with tarot cards or with my lovely oracle deck, 7 more on deck, and then also runes. So it wouldn't just be a straight tarot reading because I would have a lot of information just from your astrology chart that would help me know more about what's going on.
Yeah,
And then the cards would answer your questions as well as the astrology, and then runes give you something to think about for your shadow side. So also very
yeah.
different.
I haven't tried the runes yet. I've been thinking about getting a set. I'm just not sure which set is right for me because
Make
none
your
of them have
own.
spoken to me yet. Yeah, maybe
Make your
that's it.
own. Make your
Um,
own.
and so I've been thinking about that. I mean, I've got my handy dandy pendulum that I use a lot. Uh, whether if it's little mini readings like we do online, or if it's in a personal reading that someone's a paying client, to get a reading. Um, but I tend to use tarot cards, oracle cards, my pendulum, several different things to kind of tie together what they're asking or what it is they're looking for. It just kind of depends on the question.
Right.
And
And it depends on, what, you know, spirit says to you at that moment.
right,
I'll set up decks and I'll kind of think about, well, so this is how I do my channel. As soon I'm going to go live one of these days. I really am. So I'll think about a topic that I want to talk about, and then I'll think about the deck, what might be the most appropriate deck, and then or 3 decks. I like to use multiple decks, and then lo and behold, I do a 3-2-1 spread, and those cards will absolutely give me the information for the talk.
yeah,
It's crazy. It just astonishes me,
yeah.
and it's so fun.
Whether if it's for a show or a private reading, I mean, granted, now it's been years, so I've got a shit ton of cards. Um, but I'll literally just go to the bookshelf and say, okay, what cards am I supposed to use for this? And invariably, Spirit will let me know that one, that one. And there have been times I've been in the middle of a reading and I'll hear, wrong deck, go get this one instead. And I'm like, you couldn't have told me that when I was standing in front of the bookcase like 30 minutes ago. No, you wait till I'm in the middle of it.
the
Um,
the energy changed. The energy
the energy
changed.
changes. That's right. And my guides are very blunt and in my face with things. They
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 don't
don't
mince words
they don't
or
mince words
directions.
at
That's
all.
good. Sherry,
And
my computer, I'm at 7% battery, so I'm
all
I'm
right, we're
probably
gonna
gonna
say
have to
good night.
go.
Thank you very much. And you'll see Sabrina with us again lots of times. She pops in on
Please,
the
please,
slumber party.
please subscribe to my channel. I'm
Go to her
begging
channel and
you.
subscribe. All her
Tree of Life
contact
Inner Guidance.
information is in the description box below. And while you're at it, subscribe to me if you're not. I'm almost to 10,000. So I'm like, to
I'm
the point that
almost at
I don't even want to
200.
look anymore. I get sick of the stomach. I don't even want to look anymore. It makes me nervous. So
Yeah.
it's,
Well,
it's like I'm
I'm
gonna
just
jinx
hoping.
myself if I look. So
I'm just hoping that I'm doing some good in the hood. That's what I'm hoping for. So anyway,
absolutely you are.
everyone, happy New
Absolutely you are.
Year.
Happy New Year.
Shari,
We will see
it's
you soon.
soon.
And thank you,
my
my
sis,
dear.
my sister
Love you, love you.
Shari, my sister
Pretty
Shari.
much. Yeah, we're pretty lining up there. So bye, y'all.
Bye bye.